Good morning, everyone. This is Tony from Her Homestead Skills. I'm going to touch on a couple of my last videos. First and foremost, the very last one where I made the raisin bread. I have read some of the comments, and yes, bread looks amazing, and it's not bad. And one of you have actually caught on that I did actually say in that video that if I liked the recipe, I would post the ingredients. And I have to say that I'm not totally thrilled with the recipe. There's a number of things that I would do differently. So I would really like to test a few other recipes before and I probably will not do them. Not produce a video until I find one that I like. But this is just to reiterate that sometimes recipes don't turn out the way you want. I found this one. I mean, the bread looks amazing. It doesn't taste bad at all. It's a bit on the doughy side, so it should have been cooked longer than what the recipe stated. It wasn't as sweet as raisin bread that you buy in the store. Mark commented that it really needed a lot more raisins than what was in there, and he was probably right. And I suspect that there are a few other things that could have been done differently. Certainly a little bit more cinnamon, and I just very lightly dusted the inside. You could barely taste the cinnamon. So, yeah, there are a number of things I would have changed about that recipe, but first and foremost was I think that the cooking time was not long enough. And yes, we'll eat it. And yes, we did finish one loaf between us, between last night and this morning. But it needs to be toasted. And it did come off as a bit on the doughy side. Yes, you do want raisin bread to be soft. And it is soft, and that's nice about it. So there are good points and there are bad points. I'm not thrilled with the recipe. If I do it again, I would make a whole lot of changes, but I think I want to attempt one or two others before I commit to what I would use as a recipe for making raisin bread. Mark loves raisin bread. I really enjoy it too. And paying $4 or $5 for one little small loaf of raisin bread at the store is really not my ideal, so I do want to learn to make it properly. Okay, that's number one issue, and I apologize for those of you who were expecting a recipe. When I do find one that I like and I feel that I could make well and would support, a recipe that I would support, I would definitely post it. I have in the past, and I've learned to be a little bit cautious in that sense, that sometimes you post something and it really turns out not so great. What comes to mind as the big one in my mind was canning rutabagas. And canned rutabagas taste horrible. I don't know if you've ever tried canning rutabagas, but yeah. I just blanch and freeze, and they're beautiful, and they taste just as nice as the fresh ones, but canning them just seems to spoil the taste altogether. And I do have a video on canned rutabagas. Perhaps I should take that one down. But it's a reminder that not everything you do turns out, and there's no such thing as an expert, not even in the kitchen. You may have one or two dishes that you do extremely well. I mean, there are people that think that I make great pasta. I think I don't even come close to making pasta as well as my mom did. But I guess compared to people who make homemade pasta today, I could be considered an expert. I'm certainly not afraid to handle the dough. But getting the right consistency is still an art. And I've never found a recipe that does it precisely. And for some reason, the grandmother, the mother, they could just do it out of feel. They just felt that the dough was the right consistency. the number of eggs, the number of flowers, and when it felt right to them, and it was always beautiful. I still have to master that art. Anyway, yes, no such thing as an expert. And on the topic of experts, I was recently criticized for posting videos on world events and my thought on what is happening in the world. And I was told that I should leave that to the experts and focus on, get back in the kitchen, basically, is what I was told. That I should not try to be more than what I am, or make my channel more than what it is. And sadly, what I'd like to say to this person is that you should always try to be more than what you are. You should always try to achieve more than what you think you can. You should always aim for better and greater and more, and not accept mediocrity. And yes, I'm not always the best speaker. I'll admit that. I'm not the best public speaker. I don't always have the details. But you know what? The truth of the matter is, in world events, and what you hear from the so-called experts is crap. There's no such thing as experts on anything. They are all opinions, especially in the news. I don't care who it is. They're not giving you the truth. They're giving you their idea of what they want to present. And it's about time some people face that fact. That it doesn't really matter if it's left-leaning, right-leaning, center-leaning, whatever leaning. It is a viewpoint that somebody is presenting because that is the one that they support. And that's the fact. Okay, and based on that, I have to ask a question. Perhaps to that particular individual, or anyone who thinks a little bit like that individual. And the real question is, why are you preserving food? Like, seriously, why are you stocking up on food? Why are you preserving food? If not because of the situation in the world that you see, that you recognize? Or are you doing it just because somebody tells you it's a good idea? I think you have to think about why you're doing the things you're doing, and who you're listening to, and why you're listening to those voices. And are they voices that you yourself just agree with, or are they things that you can support through your own knowledge? There's something with knowing, there's something about knowing something through your own knowledge and not through what others tell you. Yes, I know they claim that YouTube content creators are influencers, and perhaps we are to some degree. They certainly try to present us with items to sell to people who watch our channels. To date, I've kind of ignored those, and I know that, yes, it would probably be very profitable for me to support some of these items, but I just didn't feel that there were things that I wanted to promote and sell. And I've been in sales. I know what sales is all about. I'm quite comfortable selling a product if I believe in it. But if I'm just selling a product to people who frequent my channel, who may like what I have to say or like what I have to offer, or whatever the case may be, I'm not in this to sell you product. I have no interest in doing that right now. I've spent many, many years in sales. I know what that's all about, and it doesn't interest me. If there was something that was spectacular that I thought would benefit you, me, and everyone else, I might look at it, but I have not been presented with anything like that today. So, big question is, why are you canning foods? Why are you stocking up on foods? Tell me. So, if you see what I see, what is wrong with me voicing an opinion? And it may not be one that you agree with, and that's all fine and dandy. You don't have to agree with me. I don't have to agree with you. I let a lot of weird things, comments go by without either censoring or doing anything. I let them stay unless they're very rude or condescending or mean. And anything beyond that, YouTube takes care of, and I let them do it. I mean, anything related to sexual things, I just don't allow. I keep my channel as clean as possible to make everyone as comfortable as possible, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to censor every thought or a specific train of thought. Now, I'm not really a political person. You know, I may have leanings in a particular direction, somewhat. I may have leanings in another direction in other areas. But yeah, perhaps I'm more strongly leaning in one direction than another. But I'm not really a terribly political person. I'll admit, though, that I do vote. And I have seen a few YouTube videos where people are encouraged to vote, and I appreciate the fact. Now, I'm not in the U.S., and there's no, well, the only vote coming up here locally right now is for local voting, so voting for your local mayor. So, you know, we will vote for that. And we recently voted, the most recent vote beyond that was for the conservative leader of one of, you know, our political parties. But our current prime minister will be in power for at least another 2-3 years, unless he decides to call an election before that. So there's no immediate vote coming up to change the political landscape in Canada. We do have, as I was saying, I appreciate the fact that although there are some YouTube channels encouraging folks in the U.S. to vote, they're not telling them which way to vote, which they may be trying to influence them in one direction or another based on other comments that they make, but they're not telling them to do anything other than go and vote, which I agree with. I think of your vote is between you and your conscience. It's not between you and me, not between you and any other influencer, not between you and your neighbor. On the other hand, it doesn't have to be a reason for contention with your neighbor. Your ideas and your ideologies and your way of thinking does not have to be a reason to not speak to family members. Sorry, that's so wrong. And a few years ago, it really didn't matter, but for some reason, the camps are just getting wider and wider. I mean, some of our best friends are of a different way of thinking than we are, and we know it, and there are those verbal tugs of war when discussing certain matters, but it always ends up leaving each other on a friendly basis and discussing getting back together again sometime in the future. So we don't let that prevent us from friendships that we've had for years, okay, from continuing those friendships and those family relationships. And yes, definitely COVID has created even more of an issue. And recently, now that there's an inquiry into why the Emergencies Act was invoked, a few more things are coming to light. And I know that there are people who believe it should have been invoked, and I think personally that that is utter madness. Anytime you carte blanche give someone control over your life to that degree where they don't have to account for what they do, and giving them the ability to take your bank account, if you agree with that, you should be the first person to hand over your bank account. Sorry, that's my opinion. You should be the first person to willingly say, here, take my bank account, because I may have a wrong attitude at some point. So here you go, have at it. I think people are entitled to opinions. I think people are entitled to a voice, myself as well as these other people that are protesting. And anytime you try to shut them down, you're just going to create more chaos, and people will only put up with it for so long. As we're seeing across the world, you cannot shut people down forever. So give them a voice, let them speak, let them voice their opinion, make sure that they're heard. I try to do that here. I'm not always successful, but I don't believe that I out and out object to a certain viewpoint. You're allowed a viewpoint, but just don't be condescending, don't be cruel, don't be mean, and don't belittle people because they have a different opinion than you do, or that they don't speak as well as you do. Not everyone is gifted with the gift of gab. I certainly am not. I know that. I don't speak as well as some people. My mother always said I could do anything with my hands, and she was probably right in that respect, that I do enjoy working with my hands. But it takes a bit of a brain to work with your hands as well to achieve anything with them. But doesn't mean I'm more gifted or smarter than anyone else. I think everyone has talents, everyone has gifts, and they're all different. And I would highly recommend that if people have differences of opinion, that you do speak up and voice it politely, and don't be mean to anyone else, and hopefully they will give you the same courtesy. And remember why you are canning foods, why you're stocking foods. If it isn't because you see the same things that I see, I don't know why it is. And if you do see the same things that I see, I don't really see that there's any harm in voicing what you see. Okay? I'm not trying to shut you down. All right. This is Tony from Her Homestead Skills. I hope I haven't rambled on too much, but anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.